All right. With that in mind, call the meeting to order, if you would do the roll.
Sure thing. Rich Gussenberg.
Here.
Sean Kimball. Sarah Stevens-Morley.
Here.
Jeff Solon. Greg Rosenblatt.
Here.
Chris Daddy.
Here.
Megan Rockwell.
Here.
Dennis Ryu.
Here.
Chuck Neff. Here.
All right.
Okay.
Pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Public correspondence, do we have anything?
I've received no new written correspondence since our last meeting.
Okay, and no one from the public here for comments. Approval of meeting minutes, June 27th. Do I have a motion?
I don't know, I think, yeah, I just fell through finally. Yeah.
So moved, second? 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 Any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Chairman's report, Greg?
Okay, yep, I gave an update on the Phase 1 bids at the town council meeting. Gave them, the winning bidders, timing of the work. There was one question from the council afterwards, are we still on budget? And I said yes, well, Phase 1 work came in about $100,000 over budget. The whole Phase 1 only represents about 3% of the total budget, so we're well within the margins of errors.
And when
And
we
yes, we're on
approved the
budget.
budget for phase one, it was clearly labeled as estimated
Right,
costs.
yep.
So it's not like we had
Right,
an
and I
issue with
said,
going over
that
budget.
there's worth 100,000 of the Phase 1 estimate there. And I would say that later on, when they were discussing their 5-year capital plan, it was noted from the chair that their budget has to stay lean due to the money they're expending on the schools. It was just a throwaway comment, but it was said.
You know, they're looking down the line at some bonds coming in.
Yeah, and then the council voted on awarding the contracts for the special inspection, coordination, and materials testing to TestCon for both schools. And I was asked to give a brief summary, which fortunately Rich had given me, so I read word for word his description, and that was fine. There were no questions, and both contracts were approved unanimously. And then they also voted on awarding a contract to CLA for the energy efficiency tax. Sean Kimball presented, a good description of what was going on. Council questioned if there are any restrictions on how the money is spent, and Sean said he believed there was no restriction on it. And Jeff D'Onofrio was there. He agreed, so the contract was approved unanimously. Then 2 residents at from King Road gave public comments objecting to the construction of the cell tower behind Big Y. I know we've been talking about the cell service on the lower end, so I made a note of this. Sean mentioned that there were a number of other locations considered and rejected for technical reasons. He had mentioned across from Brentwood on the Water Authority property, and that was no good. On Cheshire Nursery property, they didn't want it there. And 1 or 2 other places that weren't so good. But then what they mentioned, especially from Jeff D'Onofrio, approval is not by the town. So, because every town would always vote them down, it's by the siting commission. So while the town council can put comments in, it's the siting council ultimately vote up or down. So then they talked a little bit about camouflaging the cell tower to look like a 90-foot pine tree. And then the one that Richard mentioned earlier was in Sean's report. The demolition of the garage next to the Norton Play School should begin towards the end of July. And that's when I left the meeting.
Thank you very much,
Yep,
Greg.
you're welcome.
Appreciate it, Greg. It was one of the longer meetings of the town council, and he volunteered to do that, so thank you very much. 6A was just mentioned, that's the updated Inflation Reduction Act. The town council has moved ahead now and has hired someone to begin to do the paperwork on that. Information on the Birth to 5 incentive construction grant. Anything new on that, Rich?
Yeah, so it is now law. It took effect on July 1st. So that program is now in place to take advantage of that funding for Birth to 5. What Jack did report, though, is he said typically there is no grandfathering when statutory changes impact grant-funded school construction projects. unless specific to the language. So, because we had already had a grant approved for the two projects, this would not be grandfathered, at least the way the law is written. But
Have we seen the language on it?
I think Jack has seen the language, yes. But what he did say, though, is that you could apply for special legislation to see if you can take advantage of that funding.
Okay.
So, and special legislation on these kind of projects is not unusual.
No, it might be worth talking to Sean about speaking to our representatives.
Right.
Okay. I will do that. Financial procedures, revisions to the financial procedures document. As you recall, last time we looked at the change order process and we made some changes to it. One of the, or a couple of the changes that we made is when individual people were noted, we changed that to their job. I then took that and I put it into the document that we had approved earlier, and Chris came back and said, you know what, the rest of the document has the same issues. So I just went through, I don't think there's anything substantive, but I did change wherever it mentioned a couple of people. Vince was one, and I forget the other person's name, but, and put their job description in there, and I sent you the changes. So I don't know if you have any comments on it.
My understanding is that Heather has a new position on the Board of Ed, so I'm not sure if she's even the person that we talked about 2 weeks ago.
Well, that's why we don't want names in there, so we put in the
okay,
job
yeah.
description, took the names out.
Got it.
Anything on that? If not, can I have a motion to approve the new financial procedures as amended?
I'll make the motion.
Second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Okay, very good. And I hope that's the end of that. Action on submitted invoices. And we have four invoices for Norton, for North End.
Right.
Did you have anything you wanted to say?
No, just 8 in total, yep.
All right. Then do I have a motion, pre-construction services, O&G Industries, $10,324 for Norton Elementary. So moved, Dennis, second? Nick? Any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Owner representative, Arcadis, for $5,536.30, also for Norton Elementary. Motion, Dennis, second. There we go. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? All right, moving right along. Next one's a little bit larger. Architectural services, Tecton Architects, $240,822 for Norton Elementary. Motion from Dennis, second, Nate. Any discussion on that one? Okay, all those in favor? Unanimous again. Commissioning services, Van Zelm Engineers, $750, again for Norton Elementary. Motion? Sure. Dennis? Nate?
Yeah.
Okay, we're on a roll. Any discussion on that one?
Just a question, when are we expecting to see a report?
So once we get the CDs from Tecton, we're gonna get them over to Van Zelm. Van Zelm will then do their review and then finalize for the report.
So not for the.
Not for, yeah. Yeah, and they're only billing 62% on their design, so
Right,
they're
no,
way
yeah,
below.
Not worried about that.
No,
Just
okay.
curious.
Any other questions, comments? None? Okay, then all those in favor? And unanimous. For the North End Elementary School, pre-construction services, O&G Industry, $10,324. Do I have a motion?
Sure.
Dennis?
Keep it rolling.
A second? Nate? We're on a roll. Any discussion?
Just a quick though, it doesn't matter, but why is the invoice number the same?
What's
I
that?
noticed that too.
Oh, because it's two separate projects?
Yeah, they're two separate contracts, so they bill it monthly and it's just sequential.
It's just the next number.
It's
Yes.
that number for that project,
I got you.
yeah.
Any other questions? All right, all those in favor? Unanimous. Owner Prep Arcadis, $6,167.99.
Yeah, you're
So
right.
moved, second, Meg? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous. Tecton Architects, Architectural Services, $278,685. So moved, second, Meg? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Okay, unanimous again. And Van Zelm Engineers Commissioning Services, $766.08. Do we have a motion? And a second? Discussion? All those in favor? Very good. I don't believe we have any change orders.
There are no change orders.
There's no change orders, okay. I will put that on every time, though,
Yeah.
just in case. Schedule update,
I also have the GMP, which is not on the agenda, so I don't know how you wanna handle that, just to go over.
that came in after the agenda went out,
Right.
but
Yeah.
that's okay, we'll go ahead and,
Okay, so you wanna talk about schedule
there's
first?
several things, yeah, that you had sent some other documents that you wanted to walk through. Including, you said you didn't want to actually take any action on the
Thank you.
unit pricing, but you did want to review it.
Yeah, I didn't know if anybody wanted to talk about it.
Well, I know that it's an issue that's come up, and people are looking to have that conversation, but we're just beginning that
No.
conversation. So, yeah. But if you want things on the agenda, I usually send the agendas out on Monday before the meeting. So if you wanted something specific on the agenda, I need to know that beforehand.
Alright, so everybody have a schedule? Okay, so we remain on schedule. And just highlighting the first page is really just our big milestone, quick dates you can look at, just things that we are targeting. So we are targeting starting work on site for Norton and North End, July 23rd. That is our physically showing up on site start date, both schools. And you're not looking to do groundbreaking, right? You're gonna wait till the next phase to
Oh,
do
yeah,
groundbreaking?
no, we don't want
Because there's quite a
groundbreak
bit
on
of
this.
site disturbance
Yeah.
at North End,
I
okay.
know, we want something that's gonna be fun, and we're gonna start seeing things grow
Okay.
out of the ground.
Alright, so I didn't know if you wanted to entertain that. Flipping to page 2, just highlighting what has happened, so at the last committee meeting, you guys approved our trade contracts, we have since issued the limited notice to proceed, as well as each of them got their contracts, so the contracts are underway. We have the GMP amendments, one for each school, we have 2 separate contracts, one for North End, one for Norton, so I have two different documents, the AIA documents, and the idea was to just walk everybody through the information tonight, and then you have time to digest it, and we can answer questions in 2 weeks. But I just wanted to kind of present it to you so that you can take a look at it. So you can see I've got approval possibly at your next meeting. If it goes to the following meeting, that's not the end of all things either. We won't be able to pay our contractors until the GMP has been approved. So we just kind of want to stay ahead of them wanting to get paid. And again, they're not starting until July 23rd. So we have time. And the town council does not have to take action on this, right? This is just you guys.
That's my understanding, right,
Because
Rich?
it's a change.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, that was what Jeff D'Onofrio had
Correct.
articulated to us.
yes.
And when I forwarded the GMP documents when they were forwarded, I also CC'd Jeff D'Onofrio, and I haven't heard anything from him, but I also didn't say, yo, Jeff, it's here, so.
He would've gotten back to you.
He would have said something, yes,
And
if
I
there
just
was an
gave it to him
issue.
a couple days ago.
His guidance to us is that if we are doing a new contract that's outside of the field that we've already approved, it has to go to town council. If it's within the contracts that we've approved, then that does not have to go to
Okay.
council.
Right, just like the one that Greg, that was presented at the town council the other night.
So this series of preparing this phase 1 GMP and going through the approval process, we'll be repeating this again when we do the phase 2. So that's where we are right now. Skipping down to page 3, the materials testing agency contract's all set. We're about ready to start the structural pre-detailing effort. If you guys remember, a long time ago, we presented the pre-detailing, so we're about ready to start that. So eventually, you'll be seeing invoices for that. So that's kind of gonna go hand in hand as the design is finishing. And then we have the construction documents broken up between North End and Norton. And we are expecting to receive the 90% construction documents for North End on July 25th. And Tecton is still on schedule with that. And that's gonna trigger this whole series of reviews. There's a lot of people that are gonna be looking at these documents, so the commissioning agent, we will be, O&G will be, there, you got your structural peer, you got your local code review, so there's all kinds of, people working on that, as well as the estimate. We'll be doing that's our last construction documents estimate.
So we would not see it until,
The estimate, we got reconcile, so it
or
looks
the
like,
documents themselves, so we're gonna
you're
get the
gonna see,
documents
yeah,
also?
you'll see the documents on the 25th.
25th,
Yeah,
okay.
we'll send them out.
All right.
Yep. And then we'll do our estimate, we'll do a reconciliation, and, that's the last estimate for the project. And you see I'm targeting your September 12th date, your meeting for approval of the North End Phase 2 documents. So just like what you did at Phase 1, you'll be approving the documents as well as the estimate. And then Norton is just following behind North End by 2 weeks exactly. As was mentioned last time, this utility pole relocation, just don't want to, we don't want to lose sight about it, so we are working on it with the electrical contractor that we just hired. And so the same reviews are gonna occur, just everything is out 2 weeks. And so instead of the 12th, we'll be targeting your 26th September meeting for the approval of Norton.
Have these Board of Ed dates been run by Jeff Solomon?
No, I haven't seen Jeff in a while, so at some point we'll start
When
coordinating
we did
that.
Phase 1, we did a joint meeting.
Yes, you
I didn't
did,
know
yes.
whether that was something that would be, you would wanna entertain again, or if you prefer to have two
This is a
separate
much
meetings.
bigger presentation, so it depends on what their schedule is, and if they wanna meet separately or not. But again, I haven't seen Jeff in a while, so
Okay.
we'll touch base at
All
some
right.
point.
Is there a need for us for that to be a joint meeting?
I don't think there's a need for it. You know, I have no problem with us first dealing with it and then sending it to the board, which is the way this is set up. You know, I thought that the joint meeting was a valuable one when we did it, in that they had a lot of questions that we all participated in.
Does the board have access to the shared folder, the Google Docs folder?
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, I mean, we can certainly, we have no problem providing access to the 90% drawings. Not that, you know, we would expect anybody on the board, the BOE, to understand what
There's
is
a
on
couple of
every-
members of the board who I think probably would avail themselves of that. I don't, you know, the board as a whole, I think, is overwhelmed with a lot of issues.
Sure, yeah.
I don't know that they're gonna spend a huge amount of time. I think they wanna see the big picture more than
Yep.
anything else.
So, I'll talk to Jeff, we'll coordinate, figure out what's
All
best.
right, well, it's an option either way, as far as I'm concerned. Do people on the committee have a preference?
Well, I prefer not to do 2 3-hour meetings all in a row if it's gonna be a more detailed presentation. I mean, all of our time is valuable.
Well, I don't know that we would have to be at the Board of Ed meeting, would we?
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
I don't think we would.
I mean, we could do the joint meeting, or we could do our meeting, and then, I mean,
That's why I'm saying, I'm happy to have everybody in the world review, but I don't know that I need to be there for that. I've only got so much free time to devote.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, if we have separate meetings, I don't think that the entire committee needs to be at the Board of Ed meeting to do that. Obviously, the architects, you know, the design team, I would be there, and anyone else that wanted to could attend. But I don't think that there's any legal reason why the whole committee would need to be there.
Okay, so we'll start talking and trying to firm up those items. And again, it's all, the whole purpose is to get ready for these signatures for going back up to the state, right? We gotta set our meetings and we gotta have all the signatures by then, so that's kind of, we work backwards from there. We still have, North End, we finally, yay, on the 9th, we've got our DEP permit, so that's good. That was I was sweating bullets on that, because we couldn't disturb the site on the 23rd if we didn't have that. And the OSTA administrative decision, it's just tracking. That will become critical when we go up to the PCR meeting, so that's one of the checklist items. So it's it's there. We think it's not gonna be a problem right now, but just tracking that as well.
All right.
And worst case is if we don't have the decision done by the time we go up to the state, sometimes they make it contingent upon, well, you can't award a contract till we have, it, but hopefully we
Prefer
don't
not
go
to have
there.
anything holding us up. come-
Exactly.
What's the red box in your schedule, like the outline?
This,
Yeah.
it's just saying what we're working on right now. It's just like a 6-week look ahead. I kinda just do what we're working on now and what's focusing on the next 6 weeks or so. Cause there's 7 pages, so I wanna just highlight it, so what you're looking at. And then the only remaining, state approval for Norton is the DOT review encroachment permit, and that was supposed to be by July 11th, so that's like imminent as well. I'm not aware of anything holding that up.
You have the OGA PCR starting prior to Board of Ed approval?
That would be for North End. North End, you were probably looking at the Norton time frame. So the PCR for the Norton is on October 2nd. I broke it up.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
And if there's ever a chance that these projects can come together when we're bidding, certainly we will. I'm being realistic in giving them 3 weeks to review and approve us to go out to bid. But maybe if she can get it done faster, we'll go out to bid as soon as we can.
Okay.
All right, now moving down to, past page 5, page 6. So mobilization to sites, phase 1, that means I write contracts, we get the contractors to execute the contract, return their insurance, return their bonds, get going with submittals. That's so that they can't even step foot on site until we have their insurance bonds and execute contracts. So that's the time frame that we lose, per se, once you approve a contractor and we get them on board.
O&G will have someone on site whenever there's any work going on?
Yes, we have a superintendent, and we also have a part-time project manager, Ryan Benoit.
Okay.
And he may be on site, he may stop by, but we will have somebody physically on site.
And
For
will there
both
be
projects.
notices on how to contact them if
Yes.
there's any issues?
Yep, they'll hand their business cards around, they'll go talk to the
And
neighbors.
we'd also talked about putting a sign,
Mhm.
both
On
in
the
the front
fence,
and
once
the
we
back
get a
of
fence, yep.
Norton.
Yep.
Okay.
So we got submittals that are starting, they're just being developed now, you know, the time critical electrical equipment, generator submittals for both schools. And the culvert submittal, I just am tracking, cause I think that's a long lead item, so we're kind of in the throes of that. And then you just kinda see what we're gonna be getting started with, so on both sites, it's gonna be installing erosion controls, installing temporary fencing, and then they're really not gonna be disturbing major disruption of the site until the beginning of August at North End. Alright, and then I just targeted pretty much everything that's gonna be happening at Norton is within the next 6 weeks or so. So any questions on the schedule? Okay, go ahead.
For Jeff and for Tecton, I see October 1st as the complete construction documents for both schools. When I see
Page are you on?
page 1,
Got it, yeah.
right, October 1 is when you're completed on both schools. And I see a 2-week differential between, from the 90% and all the reviews that go along with that. So it looks like on North End, let me see, is that the right one? Excuse me, it looks like on Norton, you're gonna get your comments back on September 6th, whereas on North End, you're gonna get all your review comments back on August 22nd. So you have 2 weeks less to gather that information and put it together. And I guess we also said that we're gonna vote to approve that late September. So is that enough time for you to stay on schedule, having 2 weeks less for New Norton from getting all of the information back that you need to respond and coordinate and comment?
Yeah, I think there may be a couple of dates in there that we may be glossing over, Chris. The goal is to be in front of OGA with North End earlier than October 1st. So I believe we have the same duration to pick up review comments for both North End and Norton. And the reason why they're staggered is so that the review parties can stagger their reviews, and then we are staggering our pickup, our comment pickup. So I think on where the complete construction document phase on the first, I think there's further detail in there, in the remaining part of the schedule.
I mean, I guess the critical ones are on page 4, where it says OGA, PCR meetings, right?
Yep.
I mean, those, that red and black line are the ones that are really.
So there might be more important stuff, so does that mean this is incorrect, and that this should be more granular? Because I'm seeing October 1 as CDs complete both jobs. And I'm looking back at other steps, so either I'm misunderstanding this, and so, and that's where I'm seeing that there's a 2-week phase, there's a 2-week lag between one school and the other. That gives you guys 2 weeks less time with the information that you're supposed to get back on those due dates.
Well, if you look on page 4, where the Olga Phase 2 PCR for Norton, see how it's October 2nd? That's kind of like, they technically would be done with their construction documents by the time they get to that second PCR meeting. That's what the October 1 is saying. That means Norton's gotta be done sooner, not that they have less time, but the October 1 is just my latest date, technically, that the construction document phase is done. Because you're going up to the state, so by then, your documents are all set. That's what that's tying into, just so you know. But they don't have any less time from their side between.
Well, I get and I appreciate and I'm happy that all of these little steps and all that, you can interpret and say means this, that, and the other, but I'm not you or Jeff, so I look at this and I see a line that says construction documents complete.
So on the front page, wouldn't
That's
it
the
be
latest.
Wouldn't
I
it be
could have
easier just
done,
break it out for the two different
yeah, I could
buildings?
have done it. It's just the later one, it's
If
the
we,
later school.
if we could, because I just want to make sure we're not running into a lag with that. And then the other question I had was, you had mentioned that the submittals were coming in and whatnot, is there?
Well, they're
not-
starting to work on it.
Not that I have any interest in doing shop drawing reviews, but I'm just curious, do you have some sort of a system for which you put them on, or do our program for?
A-Connects, A-Connects. It's a new one.
Are we allowed to get on that, so if there is some document that we knew was gonna be a discussion item in a meeting, we can go and look at it?
Yes, there's no reason you can't have access to it.
Do you think that's what, do you wanna give the committee access to that?
I don't know if committee members are looking for that other than yourself, but,
I wanna see a couple of them.
Exactly, right? I know you wanna dig into it. There's at least 3 of us that wanna dig into it.
And if it's accessible,
yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
sure.
it's just like Procore, it's just a different.
They're all,
platform.
yeah, they all have their quirks. and
Yeah,
everything,
yeah.
So,
But yeah, if you don't mind emailing us the.
all right, so Laurel, can you,
Don't give us approval access.
No. You could just look at it.
make any changes?
You said-
See like
Uh,
the culverts, the middle, the generator thing.
Okay, so specifically just the
That's
3
where
of
I
you.
was. Well, I don't know, if you're gonna make it available to everyone.
Okay.
Would it be, this goes into the be careful what you wish for category. I mean, would it be better if you were to identify the types of submittals that you want to have interest in, and have that handled outside of review workflow?
Sure, I'd like access to all of them.
All right.
No, I don't know, I'm not, I certainly, believe me, I don't have any great love of having a hobby to just review shop drawings for no reason.
No, I
but-
understand, but have you used
hardware
Aconex?
for us?
Well, I haven't used that, but I've used Procore, and if it's
It's
similar.
not the same. It's a lot more cumbersome. So, but
If it doesn't work, then believe me, I'm not shy, I'll come to a meeting and say, hey, I couldn't find this, can you guys?
Sure.
I mean, personally, I have no
No, I
intent
gotta
to,
figure out.
that would be way over my head and my area of expertise, so I would not be using it.
Honestly, I'm just curious I'm curious to, on a couple, to kind of just spot check and see the correspondence going back and forth and take a look and say, oh, look at that, they did get this involved. Oh, look at all these comments, these guys are on top of it. That's all.
Is it just the 3 of you that have an interest?
You won't even find the important stuff.
I
Matt,
may
you
be
got nothing?
interested, he may not. I just think.
We all know I'm more about like the aesthetics of the school, you know, we all know that that's why I'm.
You're not gonna say that.
I can look at the shop drawings for this.
They're not in shop drawing.
So I guess it is just the three of them.
Okay.
Chickens.
All right, we all set on the schedule?
I believe so.
All right, thank you.
All right, so that's the schedule, and then I brought with me the cost comparison and the GMP, for both schools.
So cost comparison we had talked about last time, and we had asked for it to be put in a slightly different format.
Yeah, so hopefully this is kind of somewhat clear. So we'll go over this, and I'll hand out the, GMPs as well. There's only one page. Oh, sorry. Now, the GMP, both schools have the same attachments. So you're gonna see AIA, there's gonna be 4 pages. The first one's gonna be Norton, and then the second one's gonna be the first one's gonna be North End, the second one's gonna be Norton. They both have the same attachment. And it's in color, and I want to make 1,000,000 copies. So first, I'll walk you through the cost comparison once everybody gets there. Are my short copies? Do we need another one?
New North End, I think I'm looking at the same thing. Okay.
Okay, so I'm on the comparison. So what I did was the yellow was the estimated cost. So when we came to the building committee for the phase 1 approval, the yellow was representing that breakdown that we presented for both schools. So the New North End GMP is gonna compare to the second column, which was the estimated cost. And then the Norton GMP is gonna compare to the Norton estimated cost. And then I put the two of them together, the GMP, summing them as well as the estimated cost. The thing that's kind of throwing me, and you can kind of see the percentages over or under estimated costs. So if it's a positive number, the 2%, that means it's under. If it's a negative, it's over. So you can see the 6% is the site enabling, because it was North End that just totally threw us off there. And the other thing that is kind of throwing off our numbers is this $25,000 that I'm carrying for a GMP allowance to relocate the existing utility poles. We didn't have it in our estimate, so it's distorting what's happening with the
And where did that
comparison.
cost come from? Is that from
I'd like to pull it from the
CLP?
owner contingency, but he's probably gonna say no.
It's a construction contingency.
How could you say that? But anyhow,
But it wasn't known at the time they did the estimate, so that's why it was kind of an unforeseen condition. When we realized that the poles and the guide wire was in the way of the design, we realized we needed to make, a change, so.
And is that dollar figure something that we got from,
No, it's just
Eversource, or
it's an estimate that Laurel's carrying, that she's just kind of, figuring that's what the cost of the utility fees are gonna be.
right, and Kohler Ronan was in close contact with Eversource, so they knew it was like gonna be at least 20 grand, so I just put in 25. But that's just to cover whatever's there's 3 poles that are right near the Sharon Drive access, construction access. And originally, the design, we were trying to avoid them, we were kind of cocking it to one side, but then we just decided it's easier just to combine all 3 and just drive one pole, so that's what the intent is, to get it out of the way of where the permanent access road is gonna be, the entrance, and nobody will hit it that way. So it wasn't in the original estimate, and I didn't wanna just add it in because it wasn't there. This way you can go back and you can compare these numbers, but that's kinda why it throws it off. But overall, it's 3% over our estimate, not necessarily our budget, right, it's just our estimate. And again, if you wanna look at it, we can talk about it again in 2 weeks, but hopefully this kinda resolves where we were. Alright? And then I'll just go through what the document is. So if you look at your AIA, this is the formal guaranteed maximum price amendment document that we will, anytime we need to increase the GMP, this is the document that you're gonna see. So the first one is for North End. If you flip to page 2, you will see that the the increase, so I say the contract sum will be increased by the $2,599,965, and that should tie in to the attachment that I presented to you before. And then this is just like the contract language, they wanna know the itemized statement, we just basically refer to the attachment, We have a date of commencement, which is July 1, 2024, so that's technically when we gave the living notice to proceed to the contractors. Completion, substantial completion, we're saying is October 31, because that's when we're supposed to be off-site. We'll still be involved with the project, but no on-site presence. The construction should be done by then, other than maybe some monitoring. And then it just talks about some qualifications and the two contractors that we hired. So that's North End, and then Norton will be the same type of language. I was being lazy by doing the one attachment with the two jobs. So the contract sum gets increased by $1,443,730, and again, this is all gonna tie into that attachment, that one attachment that's to the two of them. So now we're gonna get into the attachment. Alright, so this is for both schools, and again, when we do phase two, each school's gonna be independent, so we're not gonna have this. I did the one attachment for the two schools, so they both have the same one. So the GMP cost summary, phase one, the first column is North End, second column is Norton, and then I just totaled them together just so you can kinda see where things landed. So this is, did I have this last time? I think I might have, I'm not sure. But anyhow, this has not changed since I was here 2 weeks ago. We have the two bid packages, we have the CM allowance just at Norton, there's reimbursables for phase one, which I will explain, there's bid document printing, this is when you, for our field guys, there's a contingency of 3%, there's a CM fee that's contractual, the 1.55, and these bonds and insurance are contractual as well, there's 0.85% and the 0.709. So these are the dollars, and again, this ties into that AIA document. Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay.
0.57 on each.
So then I just gave you the bid results, so you could see, you got 1.26P, 1.33, so it's a neat little packet. And then this is the fine print, so pages 4 and 5 is really just what our GMP is based on. So if you want, I can go through each one, or if you want to read it on your own, and I can review them at the next meeting, whatever your pleasure is. There's only 17 of them. I can go through them. And, okay, we'll come back to that.
You wanna take a few minutes and take a look at it?
I have a question, Rich.
Yeah.
I missed a couple of meetings, and maybe it was discussed then, or maybe I'm just dense. But I'm reading this as an addition to the contract, but what work, I mean, the electrical equipment should have always been, we knew we were always gonna need that. Why is it an increase to buy electrical equipment that we would have had to buy? And it's not like if we didn't do this phase one, we were gonna have a building that didn't have electricity. So why is this an increase to the contract instead of just a early submission of this piece that will then get deducted from the main contract?
Okay, so our contract with the town is only for general conditions. We don't have a contract to hire these guys. So we have to increase our contract in order to hire them.
Okay, and then the bids that come in from the electrical contractors, you would expect that to be lowered than if they, okay, understood.
So when I come to you with phase two, and we're doing this whole process again, it's still gonna say contract sum's gonna be increased, because right now, we only have the 2 million or whatever. We need to increase our contract to add everybody. Follow me?
You answered it
Okay.
completely, yeah.
You weren't gonna build a building for $2 million?
No.
All right.
Laurel, I think you're missing a date.
Where?
On the side.
You know, there is no date on the contract. They signed it, nobody
It's
dated it.
null and void.
It just says blank May, or whatever it was. Neither one has a date. So I said, well, we're gonna say what's on the contract. So it was sometime in May. Alright, so I will come back to these 17, let me just finish going through what the documents are. Exhibit C, North End, these are all the drawings that were issued for this bid, and we're referencing the project manual as well as the 3 addenda that were issued. Turn the page over, same thing for Norton, those are the drawings that were issued for this bid, as well as the project manual and the 3 addenda. And the last, not the last page, Exhibit D is the project staffing that we are gonna be using for managing this phase one work. So you'll see and again, we'll just look at it, and we can always discuss it at the next meeting. but these are the whole month, so if you see the month of July, the month of August, the month of September, and the month of October, those are the hours per the month for the whole month. So like Mark Jeff goes 1 hour a week. The project manager is split 40 and 40 between the two jobs for the first 2 weeks. Stays 40 hours, and this is again for the whole month, so divided by 4, it's only 10 hours, you know, so it's 20 hours each job, if you follow me. You follow me? This is a whole month. So, so he's half-time in the beginning, and then he drops off to even more once Norton is, because Norton's basically gonna be done after the summer. Superintendent is full-time, so you'll see the 128 and the 32 between the two jobs. Most of the work is going on at North End, so he's got, the way that we just split it up is he's got full-time for July, August, September, and October. That's a full-time super bouncing back and forth between the two jobs. And then there's a contract administrator, so there's total hours for the whole phase 1 work, if you will, is in the column over here.
Are you gonna be setting up, any,
Field office?
field office in the house
No,
yet?
not for this phase, no. I was gonna talk to Sean and just say, you know, hey, when did you shut the power off, just kinda have a conversation with him, but
Is the house available, or is there still people in it?
no, that it's available, I don't know if it still has power, it should still have power.
I would think it has, probably haven't checked,
Yeah.
but.
Anyhow, we're just gonna kinda go into that.
When we get going on both sites, are you going to have, field house, or field?
Field office on both,
In
yeah, so
each
the
place.
house at North End and then an actual field office at Norton,
Okay.
trailer.
And all the hourly rates are
Per,
normal time?
per the contract, normal time, normal everything, these are right in the contract. So these numbers are what are being reflected on the, cost summary. And then the last page is just the phase 1, this is just an excerpt really out of the schedule that I presented tonight. This is just the construction portion for North End and Norton, just the phase 1 work. And so this is what the GMP is based on, these activities happening within this time frame.
So could this change if we need to do weekend work or something, and then we're looking at time and a half or whatever?
No, not for our people, we don't charge time and a half.
Put that in minutes, please. Old.
Is there any motion or anything that the committee needs to do with this at this point?
No, I just wanted to show this to you so that you can take the time to look at it and see what it consists of. And if you want, I can run through the 17, or we can just do it next time, just so you understand what's in here. But this is truly what you kind of want to pay attention to, other than the numbers, all this language.
Well,
This is telling
yeah,
you what's
most
in and
people have
what's out.
something specific right now, I would say they can use
Just a
it.
quick one. So looking at North End, O&T labor 126,208. That's line 4 of exhibit A1.
Yes,
And that's not part of general conditions because it's work that's being done in advance of the main contract.
correct, because our phase 2 is 18 months duration
Yeah,
of a full-time
that's
staff.
I
so
just
these-
wanna make sure I
yeah,
understand.
These are outside of that.
So
Get
for
ahead
the
of it.
second amendment, this is already included in your,
Yes.
so this is an add, got it.
Yeah, this is an ad now, ahead of everything. And then the phase 2 GCs you already have, they're already in our contract.
Right.
So you won't see that at all. It'll just be adding in all the contractors and any sort of CM allowances or anything else that comes up. Okay, so,
I got a quick question.
Yeah.
On your matrix there,
which one, this one?
the
Yes.
matrix.
Mhm.
So you're not starting till the 18th, so shouldn't like the numbers in the July column be had? You can't get 160
He's already,
hours
well,
in
he's
there.
the project manager's already working because he's already coordinating with the contractors and all that. And yeah, I guess you
What
could.
about the superintendent?
Yeah, I guess you could say superintendent, he's not there yet. He will be starting on Monday, though. I know he's not physically there, but he's gonna be physically getting involved with the job.
This isn't lump sum either, right? You're only charging the hours that are billed, right?
I have no idea.
Okay.
That's a Jeffco question. I don't know what how our contract reads with the CM reimbursables. Usually it's in there,
We'll verify that.
how that gets
But,
billed.
I mean, I think these are projections, and
Yeah,
we'll
so the
verify.
worst case is,
Yeah.
it is out, it'll just go
Yeah.
down again.
we'll verify that this is not lump sum and then they'll bill as
Yeah,
they
if
charge
that's-
the job.
If that's what we're doing, that's fine.
Thank you.
This is a not to exceed, I guess, right?
Well, this is based on this
Yeah.
time frame. So if things get crazy and go beyond,
It's
not
a
our fault.
maximum price.
Unless somebody adds anything.
Yeah, it's got qualifications, Chris, where, you know, this is based on the projection of going to a certain point in time.
Right, and you'll see that in, number 8.
See, Laurel, one detailed question, just curious, on exhibit B, item 13. It says, talks about the settlement platform. I know I think we put this in the specification, 4 weeks of monitoring the settlement platforms plus an allowance of 6 additional weeks. Is that value like identified anywhere? So like
Yeah,
if they
the
don't-
allowance of the 6 additional weeks is in the contract. It's as a line item to be, a schedule of values.
But we don't know that value yet.
We do, I wrote his contract and I remembered it last time, which was
So it'll be
$16,000.
identified in the schedule of values, okay.
Yes, it will be clear on the site work contract.
All right, thank you.
Other comments or questions? Okay, thank you very much.
And I don't know if you want to talk about the unit prices, have that discussion, or you want to wait?
Well, we didn't want to get into detail at this point, but you said you did want to hand it out at least again to
I
get
didn't
people
hand it
thinking.
out.
Oh, you didn't have
I
the handout,
emailed
okay.
it. I did
And
not
I
bring
forwarded
copies.
that to everyone,
I didn't
so.
bring copies.
So why don't we just take 1 second, if you would, and just talk about the issue and how we're going to deal with it going forward.
All right, so there was an email that talked about unit prices and like specifically, you know, some things, floor drain, floor sink, 3/4 inch horsepower exhaust fan, 1-ton split system. Those are not things we typically add as one-offs on a job. These types of jobs are fully detailed, fully designed, and if somebody has to add a 1-ton split system at some point, to get a generic unit price, it's not like you're just buying the unit and it's easy to price. You would have to design where it's going and what it's doing. So the unit prices that we, and I put this in the email, normally have are, you know, we did all the fire alarm, there's speakers, communication, that's normal, electrical, receptacles, adding electricals is normal. There's some site work unit prices, but as far as these items, like a sink, you'd have to, a floor sink,
Where did those items come from?
I don't know, we just got a list.
That was my email that I said, here are some examples. That wasn't a directive. That was trying to clarify to say, for instance, you might need this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I
I was
took,
illustrating a point. I wasn't
Okay.
giving a
yeah,
directive
and I
and
don't
saying
remember
add
if I,
these to a list.
I don't remember if I had your name on there or if I
No,
just took
there
it.
was no
so-
name, it was anonymous,
So-
alcohol anonymous,
So I,
unit price anonymous.
But I've heard this come up as though this was a directive from the building committee to you guys to do.
No.
I've heard it several times mentioned. It's just, it was just a hypothetical when I had sent to Rich, hey, we might wanna look into this. And then
right,
forwarded it on.
and as I recall, and I don't have the email in front of me right now,
Yep.
I just forwarded it to Laura and said,
I would-
as we start looking at unit pricing, here is some issues or questions that have come up, and so that was it. It wasn't anything that said, these must be on the list, but, you know, here's some things. And Laurel had gotten back to me saying, you know, we're gonna deal with this in the future, we're not quite ready yet, but she also said at that time, some of the items are not ones that we would normally
Right.
put in, so.
So
this is-
did the items that were on the list, did that come from design team?
Well,
We typically look at the list.
some of them
Yeah.
came from
Yes.
Kohler Ronin too,
Yeah,
like
Kohler
those
Ronin.
telecommunications,
The
the
design.
fire alarm.
Yeah, the answer is yes, we've looked at it, added comments and modified it. It's a draft list.
So I forwarded to you the document, it was about three, 4 pages.
So this is what I plan on presenting for bidding, so, cause this has to go up to the state when we get there, OGA, so we have time to deal with it, but this is what I'm proposing, so unless somebody wants us to add more, I'm not gonna add any more.
So the design team was involved in
Yes,
developing
yeah,
this? Because my concern is that the things that you guys and Colin Ronan and the site team and all that get hammered on as far as a change order, say, why am I paying $95,000 for a Phillips screw? You know, that kind of a thing, so that you have those things, and everybody on your side knows those things that come up all the time you get hammered on, that we wanna dial in and make sure they doesn't turn into Wild West.
Understood and agree with you. And that's the list we typically use. You know, no bidder is really held to the unit price list anyway. They're looking at their bid price, so if they put high numbers in, in projects discarded them, like, you know, site work, cubic yardage for rock removal was high when you compared it to what they had to do, so we discarded the unit price and got a fixed price. So there's, I guess, a plus and a minus, but we typically put the ones that Laurel has in our spec. Yep.
That's fine. I'm just more looking at it for during construction, when a change order
No, it makes
comes in.
sense. Yep.
You know, how come you're charging me $10,000 for this when your unit price is $1,000?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm with you.
Yeah.
We get the tools.
As long as you guys are, as long as everybody's on board, that's fine.
So is this an item that we wanna put on a future agenda, or you're okay with just moving ahead with it?
We can do that during the review of the documents.
Yeah, they'll be in the specs.
All right, good, okay.
Yeah, if you could maybe just, if we're gonna review it then, I mean, you're gonna have what, a 1,200 page spec book?
Yeah,
4,000
but you
page
can
spec
search,
book?
you can search it, right? Take the unit prices.
You can just tell us where they are. so
It'll be on
we can-
Unit
Procore.
price is spec, it'll be its own spec section.
And it's
it'll
all
be on that
tabbed,
more
too. It's
proposal.
pretty easy to navigate, to be sure.
So, I mean, I guess Laurel, let us talk. It's been our experience that we usually issue portions of the front end and the technical specifications. And as part of that review set, you're setting up your bid packages that also start to incorporate the unit prices. So we're gonna need to talk to see if the set in 2 weeks is gonna have that.
Oh, no, that
Yeah.
won't have it.
No,
It's just your
it'll
stuff.
be closer to bid time,
Yeah,
You'll have
it'll
those.
be prior to the coming for you for the review
So-
and approval before we go to the state.
We'll get it to you. Got it.
So, Rich, my answer to your question is, as long as they're both working together to agree on it, I don't need to see anything else, because they're the ones who are gonna be reviewing the BCOs and agreeing, disagreeing, fighting, saying it's too much, too little, so. this
We
is
do have a
just-
procedure set up now if any change orders come about, so.
Yeah,
we'll
This
look
is,
at that.
but at first it goes through them, and having the unit prices is sort of, again, it doesn't fix everything, but it's a tool in the toolbox to evaluate and determine if you think things are on point or not.
Yep, okay.
All right, that's all I had.
All right, thank you very much. Owner's rep budget update?
Yep, so in the package you got with the invoices in the back, there are 2 sheets with the budgets. The blue is the North End, and red is the Norton School. And these can be hard to read because there's a lot of numbers on them, and there's a lot of line items. But if you take it in total and you look at the bottom line for the budget on the North End, you'll see that we're approximately a $90 million budgeted project. That's what went up to the state, that's what got approved. And what we've committed to date is $9,600,000. Emily reports it a little differently. She will track the expended versus the committed. But I think what's important is the column E, which is the committed, versus the original budget, which is A. And to date, we have committed 11% of the total budget. The way that Emily puts these into the system is, once we have a contract signed, like we just got for our TestCon, then the purchase order gets issued, and when the purchase order gets issued, Emily gets notice of it, and then she incorporates it into the budget. So we haven't encumbered those funds yet, and we haven't encumbered the phase 1 construction budgets yet. So when we get to that point, we will start to encumber. TestCon is a small amount, just like most of the consultants that we've encumbered over the last 6 months. But when we start getting into phase 1, phase 2 construction, we're going to start seeing some very large dollars get encumbered. So we'll start to see the budget move pretty significantly. And then on the Norton budget, which is in red, the important numbers are the overall budget, $76.6 million, and the encumbered amount in column E of $8.9 million, and that roughly translates to 12% overall that's been encumbered to date. questions?
Are we in a good spot? Is 12% okay?
Yeah, I mean, you know, where we are, I think we're good. You're gonna start to see those numbers start to tick up, Chris, but,
Yeah, at this point, it's all pre-construction.
yeah. And we will start to know where we are budget-wise when we commit phase two.
Does this have the added numbers when we were, remember the value engineering, we were adding money to the
Yeah,
budget?
they are. In Norton, yes.
Okay, you're showing it in the GMP, right?
It's
Oh,
in,
you must be
it's
just,
in the GMP,
you're
yeah.
just moving it within the line item.
But you have to go to column C, and then you'll see where the change is.
We moved money from the contingency.
We moved money from the contingency twice.
Right.
And then we also moved money from,
Well, actually, 3 times. We moved money into the contingency,
yes,
and then twice we moved money
Yeah.
out of the
Out,
contingency.
yeah. So the committee accepted the budget, because the original budget that was sent up to the state was modified once we started to take a look at the line items, and Emily was able to kind of squeeze numbers out of them, and then she reformatted it, and that's what we presented to the committee. The committee took action, and that's what you see as the original column A, which is the budget that, you know, we've kind of locked in. And then from there, as we move things from owner's contingency, and as you said, you're right.
We moved money from owner's contingency into the construction.
That's right, yeah. That is correct.
Because the Norton project was coming in over budget.
Yes, and then last meeting, we talked about the playground, which was in FF&E. There was a budget for playgrounds in FF&E, and we've moved that into the GMP number, Jim.
You wanna give me another 25?
No.
For the polls?
No. I think you can, I think you can swing 25.
I'll let you guys discuss that. Any other questions or comments? All right, thank you.
To your point, though, all that is tracking. The owner's contingency, you can
Okay.
quite easily.
Open item log?
Yes, okay, so open item log, we were able to get some feedback from Polar Ronin on the items that Chris had flagged. The last meeting, items 29 and 34, they provided their explanations, which we put in the feedback section. We're gonna move those to close. Chris, I annotated John O'Connell's comments because they were pretty lengthy, so what you see here is his comments, but I kind of took out a lot of the, you know, the detail.
Because 34 doesn't make sense to me.
Okay.
So, let's,
So he's saying that
It's just, I haven't looked at them at all.
25% additional capacity for, I think that was the question, right? Is that we're building additional capacity in?
right, and he's saying, the way I'm reading it is that the breaker will have the ability to be increased. But are we designing for the 1600 amp, or are we designing for something smaller, knowing that someday we may turn it up if we need it, and then we've got to dig trenches and put in conduits and conductors and stuff, so I'm curious if the service size, it doesn't quite answer it to me, I'm still confused on that. I mean, Jeff and Justin, do you guys understand what the service size, what that means in relation to service size? It doesn't quite answer it to me.
I'm looking at
Yeah, let me grab
John's.
this word.
25% sounds good, but the way it's answered doesn't quite match up to it.
Yeah.
Is it in the detail that you took out or not?
No, it's in an email.
And I was afraid, I had my question already, and then when you said that, I'm like, oh, man.
I'm not a technical person, but I thought I understood what he was getting at, and I don't think I cut out the important things, but.
I'll read the entire explanation, which covers most of what's written here. The spare capacity in the design is approximately 25% for both schools. The load letters which indicate the amperages shall be updated as the design closes out. At this time, Norton's electrical load is calculated at 1,252 amps with the main circuit breakers. Long-time pickup having the ability to be adjusted to 1,600 amps by adjusting dials on the circuit breaker. For North End, the electrical load is calculated at 1,921 amps, with the main circuit breaker's long-time pickup having the ability to be adjusted to 2,400 amps by adjusting dials on the circuit breaker. I'm guessing that doesn't clarify your
Pretty
question.
close to what's here.
Yeah, it's definitely, you did a good job. But, so that does still leave it, I mean, are we designing a 1,600 and a 2,400 amp service and installing the conduits and conductors for that, so we have that, or
That's
to
how
me,
That's,
interpret
yes, that answer I can say yes.
okay, cause that's not how it's written here, it's written that it can be adjusted to, you know, that's, you know.
That's how I read it.
We can have a really nice school in the North End, or we are having a nice school in the North End.
Yeah.
There's a big difference there, and
So do
could
you
be
wanna
installed.
clarify that for the next meeting, or do you wanna?
Sure.
Okay.
Well, Justin seemed to clarify
Yeah, it's
that. I had a couple of other, well, I have a comment.
But Doug, don't jump ahead yet, I wanna make sure, are we closing 34, or are we asking for clarification on 34?
You guys both said we're designing for 16 and for 24.
That's how I
Yes.
interpret his response.
Yes.
Which means
Yeah.
conduits, conductors for 16, 24, the dial will be at 16, and the other dial will be at 24.
Yes.
Okay.
So,
So he just
And
had,
you're okay with closing that?
yeah, it just, there was more granular information that made it far more confusing.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Because
So
the
is it
granular
just-
information meant that it could be much less.
You're designing everything for 1,600, and he's saying that we're only, what's in there right now is
Yeah.
only pulling 450.
The way I interpret it is there's gonna be a
So we're at like
1,600
80%.
service and a 2400.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That's
That
how
answers
I-
the question.
which is in the phase one documents.
Okay, then you can close it.
I can close those,
Great.
okay.
Right. And you have another?
One down.
Yeah, so I'd like to actually remove 63. That's one of mine, and, you know, I'm thinking about it, and I'm trying, to me, it feels as though the committee is telling them how to design something for the kitchen and for the GFI, and I think they should do what they think is the best, and leave it at that. If they feel breakers are the best, or if they feel, I just don't think we want to, so if there's a problem, it's not like, well, the owner told us to do it.
That's fine with me, you put that item
Yeah,
in
so
there.
I want to,
If there's no objection around the table, then we'll just remove it.
yeah,
Sure.
let them do what they feel is best.
Okay.
And then the other question I had is, there's a few of these that refer to the 60% CD submission.
Well, we're well past that, but I think we decided to leave them in, Chris, because it was decided that rather than acknowledging that they were complete, we were going to wait until the CDs came out, and then they're gonna be checked visually.
Yeah, that may have been one of the meetings you missed.
I
We
think so.
had a lot of these was closed.
Right.
And people said, until we actually see the documentation, we wanna keep it as a pending item.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, the 60% is the only thing I was hung up on, I'm like,
Yeah, but that change, that had
So
to
the
change.
60% submission that's referred to from some of our engineers is an internal check set that we asked them to pull together. It's not a project threshold, that is
That we see.
a submission, yeah.
that's where my confusion was, so thank you.
Which we initially had closed, but then we said, let's put it as pending, so that when they come out with the 100%.
So that we can go through and check and see that everything's been done. Anything else on that?
And I do have one other item, yes, item number 66, that was something that was flagged at the last meeting. And we did get a comment, but the comment didn't make any sense, so Justin went back and got clarification. I got that this morning, so I can read it and then I can put it on the document, and then, you know, if you're all satisfied, we can close that one. So item number 66 is recommend that all electrical panels are a minimum 42 position. And the response is, all branch circuit panels are a minimum 42 poles. Lighting panels are 30 pole, because 42 pole are considered excessive for lighting branch circuits in this design. Does that make sense?
Yeah, they said no.
Okay.
We don't agree with you, Chris.
And we bought it the way it is.
And it was bought. Yeah.
So you said no to me also.
Yeah. I marked it
Duly
down.
noted for next time.
I know, that'll get put into the thing, can we move that as closed also?
See if your invoice gets approved.
For the record, I completely disagree.
Okay,
I think it's a poor move. Because lighting panels are used for things other than lighting in 2 years, when you need something in 3 years. You have power, you have a panel, you use it. So,
I'm not the engineer, but I you know,
sometimes I am, but apparently not
I
here.
take your point.
Well, unless there are.
Not the owner either.
Unless there are other people that feel this is an issue, they wanna jump on it.
let it go.
Okay,
Okay.
then you're all right.
It's
That-
just
that-
disappointing, though, that we request something as simple. I mean, it's simple, it adds almost no cost to the project, and they just said, no, Chris, we're not doing that. I have a problem with that in principle, not as far as these panels go. I mean, the reason that they're not doing what the owner asked, no different than if you asked for something or anybody else, the reason they're not doing it is because they said, we don't want to. And I just take exception to that. So, you know, it's fine. I'm not gonna, but
Well,
a shot across the bow from me, I'm not letting that happen again.
the committee as a group has power, the committee as individuals does not. So if the committee felt strongly and said, you know, this is something we want, or we want to pursue, they have that ability.
But I'm saying the same thing. This comment was made by the committee. There's no name on it, right? It doesn't say Chris's comment 66.
No, but I'm saying
This is
if
from
we,
the committee, and Kohler Ronan's engineer said, we don't want it.
yeah, so we're saying, no, but we didn't vote on each item that this is something that we must have. This was a list of things that people submitted that we put on the list. And if, you know, if the committee said, Coloronas, you got a response?
Yeah.
We don't like your response, we want something different, that is something that is within the committee's power as a committee. So
that's kind of the issue with this list, is that we're seeing this as a pending item, but we've already bought them,
we've already what?
bought them.
That's what I brought up last time. I says, these things aren't, we're purchasing, we're pre-ordering things, and stuff isn't necessarily rectified on here. There were things on here that had dates that were after the fact from when we're ordering this stuff, so, yeah, so that's another part of the issue. But Rich, I understand what you're saying, there's no vote, but Kohler Ronan or Ganesh or Tecton, I don't think has authority over our comments to disregard our comments. So if we suggest something, to come back and say, no, I
Well-
think they're lower on the totem pole than we are, so it should be we think you should reconsider, and we should talk about it, and here's our thoughts, but not, we didn't do that because we thought it was a stupid comment.
Yeah, what I'm saying is, as a process that we have gone through, we've put down some suggestions, questions, and requests for information. As a committee, if we don't like the response, we can always come back and say, we don't like your response, here's what we want you to do.
You
Well,
accepted
we
this
can't.
particular case.
This one's a little-
But we can't. It's fine, it's fine, it's not the end of the world on it. Like I said, this item, and the content of this item, isn't what's got my blood boiling at the moment.
Yeah.
It's the fact that someone that doesn't have the authority to make that decision, made that decision. Just like we didn't vote, they didn't vote. But the thing is, if they did vote, it would still be meaningless. We're the only ones who get the vote. And when we ask for something, we should get it, or there should be an intelligent response that says, you know, we think you should reconsider because of X, Y, and Z, and this, that, and the other thing, and let us know if you still want this, even though we've said this. That's how it should work. They work for us.
So what you're saying is, in this case, we missed the boat. It went, because.
Now, in this case, our consultant, actually, your sub-consultant, just, I don't know, I think completely disrespected our wish. That's the way I look at it.
We'll have Kohler Ronan at the next meeting to answer this.
Yeah.
I don't, I,
Yeah.
I don't know. You guys are missing the point.
No, I-
we get
It
the
could be
point.
anything. If I could say I want them to print in red lines, they should come back and either say, we don't do that for this reason or other.
We understand your concern. We'll have Kohler Ronan back to address this issues, to make sure that they weren't just blatantly disregarded, and they'll explain in more further detail, and if they did, then we'll rectify it to make sure that the committee's satisfied with it.
Yeah. Is this
That's-
still an open issue, or is this something that is?
Well, it was part of the early release package, it was the problem, so when the due date on the response was after the bid date, it creates an issue.
So it is a done deal.
So that
In
looks like
theory,
it's the first
there's,
change order.
I mean,
it's
you're not
never a
gonna-
done deal, you can ask what the difference.
We're not gonna go back and change it.
Honestly, I don't, I have, this one committee member has no interest in hearing Kohler Ronan discuss it any further. I'd like you guys to talk to your sub-consultant and say from now on, if you don't agree with what the committee asks, give a reason and ask for further comment.
And give it to
Don't-
us early enough. that
Don't
we can deal with it.
disregard it and
That's-
say,
I think
tough.
that's the-
Well, I'd like them to speak to their disregarding your comment is what I'd like them to speak to.
I don't need to.
Better explanation
I just
of
need to
why.
know.
I, in their defense, maybe. I think the way that it's written is similar to the comment that we had on 63, where it's recommended, where we're kind of like telling them, we recommend to do it, we're not designing anything. So we could have written it like, we would like this to be a that, and they could have replied.
I know.
We're doing it this way for that reason.
I know what their answer is. They're gonna say, we've only got 6 lighting circuits. 30 is way excessive. You got a ton of extra spares in there. What's the big deal? So my concern is not that. It's if I just said, let's make the panel left-handed instead of right-handed. Let's make the door swing to the left and to the right in the panel. And they said no. It's
Better
just-
response is all.
It's just
Well, my,
disregarding a request from, a flippant disregard is the way I'm looking at that, of a committee request, I just think is unacceptable.
my concern is the timing more than anything else. If they came back saying, you know, before the packages went out, saying, for the following reason, here's what we're recommending,
Then we could have acted on it.
then we could have acted on it.
Good
But
point.
now, it's a meaningless discussion because they didn't respond to us until after it was already a done deal.
And that's probably why the answer was what it was. Crap, it's too late. Well, tell them it's not necessary. But this is such a simple one, too, that could have been addressed, I mean, when I addressed it. It was months and months ago. Somebody could have said either sure or, you know, you're wasting money. It's kind of stupid. You sure you want to do that?
But I don't want to be caught as we're going forward. We're going to have other new items coming out to the open item list, and I don't want us in a situation where decisions are made and then we find out after the fact it's too late, we really had no input.
Right. So no matter what they come in here and say, it's gonna be like, well, why did you wait until it was too late to address this? Because this thing's been on the
deadline date
list for.
says 7/31 on it, that's why.
It's an easy, well, no. Do we always wait till the last day to address stuff? That's silly.
There was an honest debate about whether the panels would be in or out of the early release package. I remember that conversation here, actually. So the response says deadline date there. That's one reason why it probably came in after the early release package. I'm not making excuses for them. I want them to come here and speak to the level of detail, because I'm not the engineer, to where the extra capacity is in the electrical design. Because I don't know, we've worked with them quite some time. I don't think they would take an owner's comment and blatantly disregard it and call somebody, you know, irrational or stupid. I think there's a logical reason why they did what they did. If it's still unacceptable, then we'll rectify it. That's all I can tell you right now.
That's fine. Thanks.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, let's move on. Anything else on the open item?
You may be adding something.
No, I'm just not happy at all with the way this discussion went. It has nothing to do with the actual item here. It has to do with the sub-consultant's lack of a response. I don't care about the due date. They got these comments, they had these comments in front of them long before we had deadline dates. That was added way after. So these comments came in long before that, and it should have been answered way back then.
Okay, I think we've made the point. Architects.
Okay. So, we have a couple of, slides to go through. They're part of your, we had printed out a hard copy of this presentation, some things that we just wanna make sure that we reiterate. Rich, I noticed that some of these, numbers, need to be updated based on the monthly budget report. I think they changed based on the GMP numbers, because I'm using the numbers that we went over a couple weeks ago that shifted the playground allowance into the construction cost. So this is to the last presentation point where we had a couple of different numbers.
Okay.
We are modifying the construction cost and the FF&E cost to reflect where we are based on the modifications to the playscape and project contingency allocation. So next time you see this, it'll be updated to align with the monthly budget report. Just a reminder of where we are in the design phase schedule. I think we went over what the path of travel is for final approval and NGSBC approval, BOE approval, and then PCR meetings with OSCG or OGA. Just a reminder that our current 90% construction documents are in 2 weeks from today for North End, and then 2 weeks after that for Norton. I am including just a reminder of some of our illustrated site plans for Norton School, as well as our updated floor plans. We had issued these as hard copies at our last meeting. If we need to toggle back to have any of these as a discussion point, we certainly can. But, so for North End, again, site plan, large site plan.
Hey, Justin,
Yes,
can you go back more?
yeah,
Rich, can you add an item to the list?
yeah.
Remove the tree from the right of way. We talked about that a lot.
Yeah, and you,
Dennis, can you say that again?
thank you, Dennis. This right
Remove
here.
that tree,
Yeah.
actually trees.
Oh, the design.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's several.
Not an actual tree.
Yeah, off to the right also.
Thank you, Dennis.
Good point.
Not in place tree.
This is actual water features.
Updated floor plans. North End, what we wanted to get to is just a preview of some of the items that have been as part of the open items discussion. What we're showing you is kind of a work product for where we are. We anticipate as part of the final presentation to be providing updated renderings of the exterior and everything. So one of the items that we've talked about is rooftop screening, making sure that we're able to screen the mechanical units. So this is an axonometric of the live model of Norton. So if you recall, some of the roof volumes along, so what we're looking at is and I don't have should have been prepared with my,
What is a clearest story?
so the way that the prior roof volumes had is we had one single pitch that went from here across the classroom to across the corridor, and we provided natural light into the corridor from a clerestory that was on a vertical surface.
Okay.
So in an attempt to provide a little bit more volume for our roof volume, in order to make sure that we're screening these mechanical units, we're limiting the pitch to over the classroom areas. We have a flat roof at the corridor. We're going to introduce some skylights in lieu of the clerestory to get some natural light into there. So one of the things that we have done we are continuing the roof volume in the interstitial spaces that we had previously just had a flat roof. So in essence, we're kind of continuing the roof line with some articulation all along the south elevation. And this is replicated in the north area. One of the things that this also allows us to do by the introduction of this roof volume is we're actually able to get rooftop access via the stairwell at both areas. This has been a point that we've gone through with facilities to make sure that we have adequate access to the roof. And by bringing this through the stairwell, we can eliminate some of the roof hatches and ship's ladders that would otherwise be in the academic wings. So if somebody needs to arrive on site to access a rooftop mechanical item, service it, they're able to get to the roof without going through the classroom, the learning communities.
Hey, Justin, do
Yeah.
the skylights have fall protection?
These guys here,
Yeah.
I believe the 300-pound rule, where I'll verify that they can withstand the force that is necessary.
Doing a project now where that's an issue.
Yeah, what you don't want to have is a worker bringing their lunch up and sitting on the skylight and falling through. That's the concern.
So, in the original plan, you had vertical glass.
Mm-hmm.
So in the winter time with snow, stuff like that, you would still have natural light. In this plan now,
We'll still have natural light through there.
Well, if snow covers it, you won't have any natural light.
Those are domed, aren't they?
Yeah, they're domed, and they're on curves, so they're, if you got a 3-foot snowstorm for the period of time that the 3 feet of snow is sitting on the roof, you may have a roof covering over a portion of the skylight, but that would,
It also won't be in school.
yeah.
The skylight, it won't have school melts and snow. So it won't be in the building. It won't be in the building, if you're 3 feet of snow. It won't be in the building.
Well, the day after.
Well, yeah.
So the rooftop access by the stairwell, what this allows us to do, we'll maintain the area of rescue assistance communication here. We'll provide a gate that at least provides a barrier to the stair that goes up to the rooftop. So we think this is a pretty sensible strategy for giving us a responsible way to get to the roof without having to climb any ladders,
Is it just
etc.
the one
No,
stairway or is
both
it
both stairwells at both knuckles will have this.
Okay.
These doors monitored.
Yeah. So this is for the rooftop screening at Norton. So if the light blue line identifies the ridge line that our approach is down to the south of the screen. Our major mechanical units for the classroom corridors are kind of within this perimeter. We do have 2 air handling units that are on the kitchen flat roof area. We are providing a rooftop mechanical screen at that location. It's far enough back that we think that we don't need to do too many gymnastics with any additional roof
How
lines.
about the neighbors in the back?
That's the tree line in the back. We were concerned about the neighbors along,
Farmington.
Yeah, Farmington. There's, I mean, we can wrap it around the back, if you think it's needed. There's a fair amount of trees between, you know.
Yeah, you have the wetlands.
Yeah, right, you know what I'm saying, so we were more concerned about the left side, you know.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Does this change in any way the calculation for solar panels?
No, this was, the calculation for solar panels was based on this roof layout.
The blue line you said was, no, the blue line's just a bridge, that's not screening.
That's a line of the ridge, so this is the high point of the roof volume. So while some of these units may be 6 inches, 12 inches above the roof ridge line, the perspective that you would be seeing them, they're ample, they're suitably high enough, the ridges, to screen these units from the south and from the north. And we think there's enough space to the east of the building that we don't necessarily need to screen those.
Yeah, I mean, you specifically asked at one of the meetings about the screening, so we
Yeah, no,
wanted
that's
to
great.
do these diagrams to
Yes.
show our strategy. And I believe the one on the left was already in the DD package anyway.
Yeah.
So these aren't really cost implications.
So for the north end, similar strategy with roof access at above either stairwells, providing the ridge to the south of the building and the north of the building. We do have 3 air handlers that are tucked behind kind of a perpendicular volume that is probably just showing this diagram. You see the volume of these. What we've superimposed here, there's currently no screen at this area that would screen these air handling units from the western portion or the approach to the site. So
But there's quite a distance.
we're tucked pretty far back, these are. But they're not as screened as sensibly as say the other
Yeah,
ones are.
what's a little deceiving is, you know, these elements are, you know, probably another
Yeah, they
50
come
or
out quite
65
bad.
feet. But I felt like, you know, you are gonna probably see these through the peaks, you know?
But
Or
Plus,
if
you're
you're up
looking
on the
down on the
road.
school, you're also
Yeah.
looking down on the school.
Yeah, if
There's
you're
not
on
much
the
you can
road,
do
you're
about
looking
that.
down.
Yeah. So, the question really is the yellow, you know, what do you feel about that? Do you think it's needed, or do you think the peaks, the gable ends of your media, gym and
Well,
yeah.
when you're driving on Marion, you're going 40 miles an hour anyway.
Plus, I don't expect to see a school and think that there's no air conditioning.
Right. So those are not that obnoxious.
I hope when I see the school, I'm not saying, oh, there's an air conditioner. I mean, there's plenty of other things to look at.
Right,
when it's,
right.
Can you go back one?
Sure.
So the top left,
Better than the
you
future.
Is that so far?
I think we're thinking the same thing.
is that
Behind the library.
too close to the edge so that you need full protection on that?
I will verify, but I think we're,
No, this is
Yeah.
roof, this
Yeah.
is all, that's just the firewall, so this is roof.
To the right though, to the
To the
courtyard.
I think we measured it, I think it's over 10 feet, yeah.
Yeah, 15. Push up.
Oh, is it 15?
Yeah, they all coincide.
I was thinking, I was gonna ask the same thing.
Okay.
Interesting, I've always used 10, okay,
Yeah, 10 is go, but those should change to 15.
okay, good to know.
well, I wrote that down, Dennis, we'll verify that.
That's probably not 15. I bet you it's
Yeah,
10.
right, so you probably need something there, or
We don't
provide
have
a,
a parapet there, I don't think, no.
put a full protection stanchion somewhere,
Yeah.
so they tie to a rope.
Just extend the roof over, close that little gap. He's good.
Yeah, that one's gonna be a challenge, so write that down.
Yeah, I got it.
Rotate it 90.
Okay, we also talked about the upper level bridge. I just wanted to review, some strategies that we're incorporating. We will provide, updated rendering, so forgive the kind of rudimentary, live model shot from here. So some of the strategies that we're using, first of all, we have pocketed doors from each learning community. So these are on hold opens, or they can be shut. The purpose of this is to be able to access stair 3 from both learning communities, in order to have the ability to be able to shut each learning community from the other. So you won't have a class coming through from over here, coming through the other learning community.
When those are shut though, doesn't it close off your access to the stairway?
No, it opens in the direction of egress in both locations. So what Dennis is asking is to have I created a dead-end corridor situation here. I think we're within the required distance here. So, so what this does is we have a second means of egress from this learning community over here, and we have a second means of egress from this learning community over here. And when fire alarm occurs or lockdown occurs, these doors shut. So somebody that's egressing from here cannot get into this learning community, but still has access to
All right, so those
stair number
curves
3.
that I'm looking at, that's not. the
Oh,
door.
these are doors, yes.
But the door would open the other way, wouldn't it?
No.
Opens in this
Where
way.
the doors swing.
In the event of an
Okay.
emergency,
Yeah,
this, let me go back to,
Yeah, what happens if you go into exit, then the doors close and you say, oh, wait.
You go outside.
yeah,
That's it.
you
you
go
gotta
ahead.
go down, you gotta go down the
I mean,
stairs.
from a security perspective too, we've had a lot of these where we've done the double reverse doors, and it's just,
I was gonna ask about that.
you
too.
can do it for egress and life safety, but then you create a breach with security. So, like, you gotta kinda pick your battles, so that, we think that arrangement is probably the
Yeah, I just
best.
wanted to make sure the doors are opening the right way.
Yeah, so,
Yeah, they are,
for
yeah.
instance, it's important to note the overall plan here, that our 5th and 6th grade learning community that's in here, if they need to egress, they have 2 means of egress. They can come out this corridor, down stair 1, out through these doors, down stair 3. Similarly, the grade 3 and 4 learning community, egress situation, they can come out stair 2, or out this way, down to stair 3.
Yeah, no, I was just asking, but if those doors close and lock, they are accessible to go through to get to the stairway
Yes.
from that part of the building.
Yes. So one of the things that we are doing is we are providing our our air handling via a soffit at each end of this corridor. So the corridor, with the exception of conduit for lighting and piping for fire protection, is more or less open to the structure above. And we have floor-to-ceiling windows within the overall space. So the goal is to have this be just a transparent bridge that is with the structure open to the ceiling, the exposed structure.
Could be dramatic.
Are you able to see in, or is there something?
You're able to see through, yeah, in and through. Yeah.
I'm just, things that you didn't think were an issue 10 years ago that are an issue now. You know, I didn't know if that was, you're not supposed to be able to see in where there might be a group of people.
So right now, we don't have anything that obscures the visibility into this elevated bridge. So
But it's not something that's necessary.
no, I mean, if this was on the ground floor, we'd have some secure glazing to make sure that we wouldn't be able to breach the glazing itself. But on the second floor, we feel comfortable where it is. So the kind of the space in between approach here is that this can also serve as, you know, if we needed to have some kind of one-on-one or small group, if the kids wanted to come into this area, and you know, this can serve as an additional breakout space that is similar to the areas that we have in
Well,
the.
it's no wider than the corridor.
No, but it's also a fairly, there's not going to be a lot of traffic in this corridor, frankly. The reality is that operationally, this stair 3 is likely not going to be used much at all. So the connection between the two learning communities is mostly there from a means of egress perspective.
The bathrooms get flooded on one part and the kids have to go to, having spoken as an elementary principal.
Right. So if, or if, you know, somebody puts instant Jello in the toilets in one area, they can use them, the toilets in the other area.
What will it sound like in there? If it's all glass, is it gonna be really loud?
It'll be louder than the
Than the corridor.
corridors, yeah, so,
That could be fun.
The doors are intended to be open, right?
yes, yeah.
So you get
It'll break out, yeah.
diffusion.
From underneath,
Just imagining
are we just seeing poured concrete?
No, there'll be I think we put a metal soffit.
Of like cover.
Yeah, there will be lighting
You mean if
underneath
you're
this.
walking underneath it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
if I'm walking underneath
Yeah, with lights.
into the courtyard
Yeah.
and I look up, you
Yeah.
know, I'm seeing poured concrete there.
No,
No.
it'll be metal soffit
Metal.
panel with
Okay.
lights in it.
To Sarah's point, you know, if the intent is that this is gonna function as an area where you have a breakout and you're gonna be doing some educating, and it is going to have a echoey, bank faulty quality, do you wanna put some sort of acoustical panels on the ceiling or something to try and dampen it so that a teacher can communicate without having?
Yeah.
is
I
it
think
something
this
we're
was
thinking
one
about?
of the areas where we were talking about the cognitive learning and maybe leaving the structure exposed, so it's not a bad idea, maybe we throw some Tectum panels on the ceiling to diffuse some of the, you know, so if, this would be one of the areas of the building I thought where we were gonna, you know, you could see the steel connection or something, so
Yeah,
they
that
could
was-
learn.
Somewhere on our list here.
67, right?
67, thank you. And
Did I
there's an
answer that
opportunity for the opportunity with the bridge in the back of the school that
Yeah,
connects
you
the
said
two
no.
wings to be more visually appealing.
That's stupid, we're not doing it.
What more do you want?
Yeah,
Come on,
they're
this is
saying
like-
we're trying to do exactly what you asked for here.
No, that's great, I just, to her point about the acoustics, and your answer,
But just even
Was-
that the acoustics would be allowed would be a learning experience,
Right.
like this is what it is,
Yeah.
this is how echoey it
I
is.
could see
I'm
them
gonna
being
use
really excited.
Yeah.
It could be bad for teachers, but for the kids, I think they would
Yeah, but the
like it.
teacher will
Noted.
expect that,
Yeah.
it'll be within the lesson plan.
What is
Yeah.
this?
Let's study echoes today.
Yeah, let's study echoes, let's study,
Or
Well,
like,
it's a
what if we bring a
good-
bunch of pillows in this
good
room,
place
like it
for-
changes?
what is it, yeah.
Light and shadow, like if they bring different colors, because it's all glass, they can they can show it on the floor, that kind of
How
stuff. That's
long,
the
how
stuff
long
we
is
end up
that
talking
piece?
about. I measured it, it's, the window itself is 22'8".
That's gonna be such a cool
So
place.
will be.
Yeah,
It
so
can be a
it's really-
greenhouse.
Yeah, right?
So
Totally.
this piece
So it's
is-
like window to window.
and that piece
Yeah.
is,
Yeah.
so
Okay.
this is
Outer edge of both
probably
windows.
30.
Yeah.
That's,
That's pretty
Yeah,
nice.
it's nice.
that's a good size.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I like the idea of the greenhouse.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah,
always
if
gonna,
it-
I put plants in anything.
Has it got southern exposure?
I like your point
That
too,
is,
that, you know, it's not gonna be ridiculous, it's just, hey, it sounds
It's
different.
east
It's
and
fun.
north end
And
and,
East on
east
and
on,
east on Norton. Yeah,
So probably
it was planned.
East and
not a,
west.
so not a great
east-west. The
Yeah.
west,
Not a
the
great
western portion is to the
greenhouse.
There
courtyard.
are a lot of plants that would like.
Huh?
You can't block it, it's egress.
Yeah, what are we talking about, plants in there?
Well, no.
That was way off track. but
Yeah,
that's-
where those doors are, we're gonna infill it with,
Yeah, fill it with
Yeah.
dirt.
Okay, so I also wanted to just give you a preview of some of the graphics coordination that we are incorporating into the documents. Now, these are, what's that?
Oh, so I said I have a story to tell. So we're doing a renovation of Holmes Hall at Connecticut College, which is a early childhood education center. And so I put together a whole color scheme
Oh, yeah?
and did a color presentation for them, and they've accepted it. And then I used some ideas that I gained from this
Okay.
committee and different graphics and stuff to
Cool.
make it fun for the kids.
And how's the feedback?
It's good. It's very positive.
Okay.
So they've liked what I've done.
So, I want to,
Just talking to you.
the reason why I'm calling this a preview is that when the administrators get back from July 4th break or the vacations that they're currently on, we need to review this with the faculty and the administration just to make sure that we're not presenting anything that is unfavorable to them. The important part at this point is that we're incorporating the areas of wall protection, graphic wall coverings, et cetera, within the documents. The actual, the images, we're coordinating, and that will be the discussion with Cheshire Public
Have the
Schools.
themes all stayed the same?
The themes have all stayed the same, so this is part of a much larger presentation that we anticipate giving in the next couple months here, where we go over all of the theming, but what we're starting to do is get into, like, for instance, this is I forget where this is,
For
but
The field.
the, yeah, it's Norton.
So the learning communities and the color schemes all are the same, this is just the next level that you've seen. So it's out of context because we only clipped one of the slides.
Right.
So maintenance-wise, I'm looking like at this bottom left picture. Are these graphics that are put on the wall, or, I mean, you know,
So this is a printed wall protection, so it's like a more or less plastic sheet. And it comes in, I think it's 4x10 sheets, and they lay it on top of the JIP, and it's basically washable, cleanable, and durable. It's the trade name is like an Acroban, that you might have seen before, an FRP, but a better level of an FRP, so it gives durability and longevity to the hallway corridor walls, but also gives a little bit of, you know,
so 10 years from now,
customization.
when I would normally have a painting crew in to do the hallway, what do you do in a school that has this kind of wall covering?
These have performed well for us. They've been on for, I'd say, all of at least 10 years. So this product lasts a pretty well long time. On the opposite side, like so that's one side of your hallway. Behind you is essentially tile, wainscot, and drywall. So it's basically that's where you would paint the wall. But this is where this is kind of like that breakout area at the end of the hall.
Right.
So this is in every,
Yeah.
everywhere.
I can't go through with a pencil and stick holes in?
We'll bring you,
Yeah.
we'll bring a sample in so you can see.
I just wanna make sure, and I'm sure, has the school maintenance staff taken a look at any of this yet?
The finished they haven't looked at the actual graphics, that's what I tried to stipulate at the beginning, is that we need to review the actual content of the graphics, but the material, that we've discussed, yes, they've
Okay,
reviewed it.
well, that was what I was more
Yeah.
concerned with. The staff will give, input on the actual graphics, but I just wanted to make sure maintenance-wise, we're not gonna be in a situation, when we were in the school modernization committee, we went and looked at a couple of schools that, they had used sheetrock walls with, just some plastic coating on it, and middle schoolers had gone through and punched holes in it and things like that, so, I
Yeah.
don't wanna be in that kind of situation.
Understood. So then this is just another example of maybe a more public space where we can start to integrate some of the local flavor as well as some instructional curriculum. We just labeled this one just Trees of Cheshire, kind of taking some of the more common trees that are found in our.
Oh, we would remove the invasive species
That's a good idea, yeah, the tree of heaven.
and the, I think this, no, the sassafras.
Sassafras is
No,
yeah.
that's regular.
But yeah, tree of heaven's real
Well,
villain these
and we
days.
have received comments to the committee about removing them from the parcels. There are some at North End, actually.
So,
Good thing.
good thing, I'm just giving you a preview now. But I guess my point is that while we're going through documentation, some of the more technical documentation, we're also going through this level of color, graphic incorporation into the project. So expect a much more detailed presentation of this in a couple of meetings. But yeah, to see like this type of stuff come together, it's pretty exciting. So, and with that, any questions on what we went over here in presentation?
Now, when I've shared some of this with the themes of the different learning communities, that's gone over really, really well.
Yeah.
Parents look at it and say, I can see my little kindergartner being in the fox den or whatever. I forget which one's which, but, that they like that concept.
In terms of some of the other updates, as Laurel had mentioned, we've received DEEP approval for both Norton and North End. That's included in your packet. We received the one for Norton back in May, the one for North End just this week, but we've included both letters. The North End, as we're all aware, we had the archaeological survey as well as the herpetologist review. Both of those have been submitted and accepted, and we had the formal acceptance. The one other thing that I will mention is we did meet with Chesprocott, the Chesprocott Sanitarian in the Chesprocott Health District to go through the food service review, just kind of an informal pre-application meeting. Went very well.
Does Chepacot have to approve?
Yes, they're one of the authorities having jurisdiction for both the food service equipment, but also the geothermal wells. So they have
really?
jurisdiction for both. We had the meeting with the sanitarian because there was an open question about, the nature, the level of grease interception for the schools, given that we do not have a grill, we do not have any grease generating equipment. So in lieu of an external grease trap chambered outside, every other building in Cheshire has a inline grease interceptor, and that was acceptable from the health district to incorporate into these buildings. So
Your fryer later free?
we're fryer later free,
Awesome.
grill free, yeah. So we've included both the meeting minutes from that meeting as well as the Playscape meeting minutes. We did receive some additional comments from the superintendent regarding Playscapes that we will catch up with him, specifically around kind of free play. strategies, which I think we can accomplish with both our playscapes and the additional walking paths, et cetera, that we have in both sites.
Any questions?